It's me again, and the weather's horrible. Well, it's not horrible, but it's raining really bad and windy, and we all know what wind does to these videos. Makes them virtually unhearable. I'm not going to say unlistenable. You can listen to the wind all you want, so I wouldn't say unlistenable, but they do become kind of tough, and it's raining, so doing the kind of indoor seaside chat, kind of near the ocean, so it's kind of seaside, although you can't see it or hear it. I'm here, if you're watching this, you know I'm here to talk about Dave's Picks, Volume 22, amazingly enough. I think I mentioned this, that when we mapped out the series going back to late 2011, we started the series with the first one in February 2012. When we mapped it out, I so distinctly remember making this list of 20. Not necessarily specific shows. There were a few specific shows on there that I was hoping would get out someday, but it was more just eras, and we'd say, okay, well, maybe this one, or maybe this block of, we were going to do 4 a year, we still do 4 a year, but I said, okay, in this 4 in a year chunk, we would do one from this era, maybe this tour, that kind of thing. So I mapped it out. We didn't really follow it, which is to say we work with a lot of flexibility, where you know, for instance, when we do a big box set from a certain year, you can, if we're putting that out in May, like, you can be pretty sure that the May release is not going to be something from that same box set era. So we do have that flexibility to jump around and do things like that. But point being that when we mapped it out, I did, and I talked to the folks at Rhino about this, we kind of mapped out 20. So here we are, number 22. So it's kind of uncharted territory, but we're still having a ton of fun. So if you're watching this, you probably know that by now. It's December 7th, 1971, the fourth night of a 4-night run at the Felt Forum in New York City. If you were a tape trader back in the day, which you probably were, these tapes were very famous. This show was the one that wasn't as famous. This was the show. I was a big collector back in the day, as many of us were. And I had December 5th and 6th, and I think I had some of 4th, but I didn't have any of the 7th. So when I got to know this show more recently, in the last few years, listening to the Vault tapes, and which we always had set 1, but we never had set 2 until very recently. So very excited that it's happened. This is one of these shows that we always wanted to get out, one of the Felt Forums, but for a number of reasons, we always went in other directions and this and that. But then when we got the full 12/7 together and realized what a phenomenal show it was, felt now was the time to put it out. And it really is a wonderful show. Now, where do I start? Okay, so Pigpen. Okay, in February of 1971, Mickey Hart leaves the band. So from February until October of 1971, it's the original 5-piece version of the Grateful Dead. In August of 1971, August 26th, the Grateful Dead played in the Bronx in New York, and after a couple of great shows in Chicago, and then the show in the Bronx, and then they took some time off. They took the rest of August, all of September off, and the first couple of weeks of October. And in that time, Pigpen's health wasn't great, so they decided, with the tour starting up in October 19th, they knew they'd be going on tour, that Pig would take some time off. They needed a piano player. They needed a keyboard player. Certainly no one could replace Pigpen in any way. Charisma, vocal, organ playing, percussion, harmonica, the things that Pigpen brought to the table could never be replaced. But by adding a piano player, a whole new dimension to the Grateful Dead could be added. So as the story goes, as we all know, Donna Jean went up to Jerry at a club show. He was playing, I guess, with Merle, probably. And Donna said, oh, that's my husband over there. He should be your next keyboard player, your next piano player. And Jerry said, all right, well, here's my number. Call, we'll do a rehearsal. They did some rehearsals. End of September of 1971. He was in the band. 3 weeks later, they hit the road on October 19th in Minneapolis. And Keith was in the band for the next 8 years, with Donna joining shortly after he joined. So the Dead went on the road October and November of 1971 with only Keith on keyboards. Pigpen stayed home. And then when they started the tour again in early December with shows in Boston, and then the 4 nights at the Felt Forum, and then there were shows in St. Louis and Ann Arbor, he was back in the band. Pigpen was there. So now we're back to a 7-piece band, 6-piece band. But then Donna joined, so that's 7. And then Mickey rejoined, but then Pig was gone. So, God, so many changes in the Grateful Dead world, and yet still always distinctly the Grateful Dead music. And so when Pigpen rejoined, this to me is such a peak version of the Grateful Dead. December 1st of 71 through the end of Europe. May 26, 72. Pig played another show after that, but he didn't really sing at that one. So call it Europe. So in that 6-month period, to me, it's one of the peak eras of Grateful Dead in terms of band lineup, in terms of performance. So what we have here with this show is this incredibly fresh version of the Grateful Dead with the addition of Keith and the return of Pigpen. It was 2 huge changes in the Grateful Dead. And by then, now with Mickey having been gone now 10 months, they'd really settled into figuring out what they were in terms of a band musically. And so I think this is some of the freshest, cleanest, purest, most inspired Grateful Dead that you're ever going to hear. And so this show, 12/7/71, it's a complete show, of course. It's very much like a Europe 72 show. In terms of song list, we have all the Europe 72 stuff that you'd expect. Mr. Charlie, Tennessee Jet, Ramble on Rose, Brown Eyed Women, Jack Straw, Cumberland Blues, all that stuff. Not everything from Europe 72. There's a truckin' in there. And what you also get is a batch of really good Pigpen. Big Boss Man, Mr. Charlie I mentioned, Run Rudolph Run, which this to me, of all the versions they did, this is the best version they played. And then to me, the highlight of the show, there's actually a couple of highlights. One of them is, to me the main one, is Smokestack Lightning. Now the Dead hadn't played Smokestack Lightning in quite some time, and then when Pigpen returned, this is one of the songs that they played a little bit in December of 71, and I think they played it once in March. They didn't bring it to Europe, unfortunately. But it's, to me, there's a great version from February of 71 at the Capitol Theatre, Portchester, on 3 from the Vault. This one is its equal, and possibly it's better. It's really a wonderful version of Smokestack Lightning. So tight, so inspired, so raunchy, everything about it. Pigpen singing, the band's playing behind him, and just how tight it is and how focused. So the Smokestack Lightning, great, just a really terrific highlight of the show. And then the closing, Not Fade, Going Down the Road, Not Fade, is kind of what you'd expect of that combination that people by then would have known, because remember Skull and Roses had just come out, and that sequence had been on Skull and Roses. And there's also a really neat late second set Truckin'. Truckin' at the time was usually one of 2 things. It was either a show opener or the launching pad for a Truckin' Other One jam. This show featured neither as the opener. Speaking of opener, I'm going to jump around a little bit, as I tend to do. The Cold Rain and Snow, which has always been one of my favorite Grateful Dead songs. And it seems to be, I don't want to say it's a polarizing song. It isn't. But it's a song that people tend to either really love or be indifferent to. Nobody really hates Cold Rain and Snow, I don't think. I don't think anybody really hates any Grateful Dead songs. But nobody's really anti-Cold Rain and Snow. But I do know several people who are really indifferent to it. But I do know some people who are really passionate about Cold Rain and Snow. And I am, certainly. It's one of my favorite songs to hear live by the Grateful Dead in any era, whether that's, 1966 Dead, 1971 Dead, 1976 Dead. They did it great in 76, 77, and then right up until the end. I saw it at my first show. I saw they opened the show with Midnight Hour into Cold Rain and Snow. I remember seeing the hottest Dead show I ever saw, which was July 4th, 1990 in Kansas. It was July 4th, and it was 105 degrees, 110 degrees during the day. It's crazy. Anyhow, they opened the show with Cold Rain and Snow on the hottest show I've ever seen. So it was just, I think, a wonderful song. So great Cold Rain and Snow opener in this show. Great Smokestack Lightning. All that Europe stuff that I mentioned, top notch. Now, another thing to mention about this show is it's a short show. It's only 2 CDs worth of music. And as you know, the Dave's Picks are 3 CDs. So what we've done is CD 3 is the bulk of the second set from the previous night, December 6th. Now, December 7th, our main show here, doesn't have a Dark Star, doesn't have another one, but it does have some of the best playing you're ever going to hear. Really Europe 72 level playing. Every song is like, wow, knock your socks off quality in terms of the band just being completely on. It's their kind of goodbye to New York show. They've been there for 4 nights with the New Riders. So just primo Grateful Dead, but it didn't have another one or a Dark Star. So what we've done on CD3 is from 12/6, the previous night, put on this great version of the other one, amongst lots and lots of other great music, a great War Frat, just on and on. CD3 is so good. It's you know, it's kind of like a bonus disc. Speaking of bonus discs, if you did subscribe to the Dave's Picks series for 2017, you will get the bonus disc that we always send out with subscriptions, which I highly recommend you subscribe. The bonus disc is good, and it's the bulk of the first set. It is the first set of the 12/6. So if you get the bonus disc and you get Dave's Picks 22, you will get pretty much all of 12/6. So it's really kind of a mini box set featuring all of 12/7 and virtually all of 12/6, 71. So anyhow, if you're watching this, as I've said before, and I'll say it again, and I don't say this as a high pressure sales pitch, it will sell out. They sell out. The last one sold out in less than 24 hours. So if you're watching this, and this has just been posted by the good folks at Rhino, go and check this out right now and buy it. Stop what you're doing, because it's going to sell out, and I don't like seeing people disappointed. And this is a great show. This is really one of those shows that, you know, we didn't have it for a long time, the second set at least, so I'd like to say we should have released it a while ago. We couldn't release it a while ago. So it's really great. Like, it's one of these shows that I am pretty certain you will never get tired of hearing. It's extremely pleasurable to listen to. It's so well played, so inspired, and it's a great song selection on top of that. So check it out. We're just about finalizing Dave's Picks Volume 23. Going to be a good show. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be a show that, and I say this all the time, and I know it's kind of getting old, but it probably should have come out a long time ago, but it couldn't. But now it can, so that's good. It's a good one. It's a really great show coming up. Other great stuff, of course, we got the May 77 box, the Cornell box, as we call it. Cornell on its own, Cornell on vinyl. It's a good year to be a deadhead. We got a lot of good stuff coming up. Record Store Day. We've got a lot of things in the works. Yeah. It's a good time to be a deadhead. It's a good time to be somebody who loves Grateful Dead music. So, thank you for listening. Again, sorry my Seaside chat is not Seaside. I waited out the weather for a couple of days, and it just didn't happen, and I had to deliver the video. And just on my last day where I had to deliver it, I was hoping for a good day of weather, and I didn't get it. It's a lot of rain. And I think just as importantly, in addition to the rain, I don't mind the rain really that much, but it's windy, and I know that the wind kind of wreaks havoc on these videos, and that creates waves. But the next one will be Seaside, because it'll be in, I don't know, July, I guess, and I'm certain the weather will be good then. Still kind of springy, wintry kind of thing. Anyhow, thank you so much for listening and bearing with me with... By the way, a few people have asked me about this, Stanley Kubrick's Barry Lyndon, because I did another video down here once. One of my top 5 movies of all time. If you haven't seen Barry Lyndon, highly recommend it. Truly an exceptional work of art. And this is probably one of the best film noirs ever made. One of the best films ever made. Just a really terrific movie. Anyhow. Thank you for listening. I'm Dave. Dave's Picks Volume 22, available right now, but probably not for very long. Felt Forum, December 7th, 1971. Really great show. Thank you.